Good afternoon or morning, everyone. Thanks for hopping in. We got a bunch of people joining, so we're going to give them just a minute to get on, and then we will get started with webinar number 2 in our construction webinar series, Building on Aspire. We're going to jump a little bit deeper into estimating this time and cover several topics that will help us out in the estimating of large construction projects. All right, to get things kicked off, why don't we take just a minute and let all of these fine-looking team members introduce themselves real quick. We've got a full house today. Amanda, you're at the top of my screen, so I'm going to let you go first after I introduce myself. If you don't know me, my name is Travis Wills, Customer Success Manager here at Aspire. We're going to be taking you through estimating 2 today. Amanda, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Amanda Pyrick. I'm an implementation manager with Aspire. Thanks for joining today.
Corey.
Hi, everybody. My name is Corey Kuhn. I'm a customer success manager here at Aspire, and I'm excited for estimating 2.
Yep. And my name's Kevin Larson, also a customer success manager here at Aspire.
I am Peggy Hughes. I'm an accounting specialist here at Aspire.
Excellent. Thanks, Peggy. All the hard questions today go to Peggy. She will surely have that's why we invite.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. We also have several guests, clients that are going to be joining us a little bit later and doing some Q&A that went fantastic on Tuesday. We're lucky to have Dustin back with us, and we have Ryan and Travis that will be answering some questions as well. We'll introduce them just a bit later in the webinar, assuming we get some technical difficulties handled before then, which I'm confident we will. All right, at this point, let's go ahead and jump in. We may have a few more join us, and that's fine, but we're going to go ahead and get started for those of you that are here and take a look at some estimating in Aspire. Again, we're focused on this webinar series mostly on fixed price open billing invoice types for work orders. That's how we would manage large construction projects. So that's what most of our focus was been. I know there's some comments and feedback that some of you are using fixed price on a payment schedule, and that works well in a lot of scenarios, so that's fantastic. There's a lot of advantages to doing it that way, simplifying the invoicing process. If that's working for you, that is fantastic as well, but we are focused mostly on fixed price open billing. A lot of the things we'll talk about will translate, some of them won't, but it's good information either way. The topic, we're going to cover 4 main topics today. The first thing we're going to cover is a brand new tool released a month or so ago to allow you to import estimate details into an estimate. We're going to talk about general conditions and how to estimate those, a couple different ways that you can do that and manage those general condition costs. We're going to talk about T&M per service. Okay, if T&M wasn't confusing enough, we decided to call it T&M per service for fixed price open billing, but it does give you some awesome flexibility to be able to manage parts of the project, particularly change orders that you need to invoice as T&M. And then we'll wrap things up with prevailing wage before we get to your questions and hopefully some good answers along the way. Just as a reminder, if you're typing in questions, if you use the Q&A section instead of the chat, that's a lot easier for us to manage. So do use that Q&A button instead of just the general chat. Okay, Amanda, if you will, we're going to start with taking a look at the import tool. There's a couple permissions that you have to have turned on for this to function. So we're going to go to admin first and take a look at the permissions to allow you to import an estimate. And in the opportunities section, the permission all the way at the bottom of that opportunities list is the checkbox for import estimate. Have to have that turned on or you can't import the estimate. None of what we're going to talk about will function properly, but we do, so we're in good shape. to go ahead. So we're going to jump out to opportunity 1850 and take a look at how this import process works. Okay, so we created the opportunity, and then we jump into the estimate. And when you take a look at the estimate, you'll notice there's nothing in here, right? So we haven't added anything manually to the estimate yet, and we can go ahead and import estimate details from an outside source. Now you may be thinking, what am I importing from? Some of you are utilizing takeoff tools. In another software, you may have a list of items or more materials that are related to the estimate that you'd like to import from that system. And that's the kind of estimating import that we're looking at today. Amanda, if you go down to the options button on the screen, we should have an option there to import. Okay, and when you select that import tool, up at the very top, there's an Aspire format template. So there are two different types. We're going to talk about the Aspire format import first. And if you click on that, that's going to open up an Excel file that will allow you to see the specific format that is required for the import. Okay, as you may have guessed, many of you have been through the implementation process and got those documents ready to upload into Aspire. There's a very specific format in order for that to work. It's the same exact thing for this import tool. And you can see the information that is necessary for us to be able to import. Every line will need, in column A, the group name, and then the service name, the name of the item, then the quantity, and then UOM is the unit of measure, or the unit in Aspire. Right, we have to have those 5 pieces of information for every line item in order to upload appropriately. So we've got a couple of examples that we're going to work through for this already prepared. So if you want to pull up that import, excellent. So, so this is filled out. It's not super complicated, right? Didn't want to make this so complicated, but we've got 3 different services in column B. They're all in the same landscape renovation group. Several different items there, and then the quantities and unit of measures that match up with each of those. It is important to note if you're trying to match items that are in your catalog, the item name and the unit of measure needs to match exactly what's in Aspire. Okay, so it's keystroke for keystroke. If there's a space between the labor space dash space construction and you don't put the spaces, then that Aspire is not going to find the same item to load up there. It will load. We'll take a look at that, but if you notice the very bottom item on this list, and line number 13 is a new one-time item, right? You're not going to load an item with that name, but that's an item that's not in our catalog, right? We're going to see how that loads, but what you'll notice is that it doesn't pull in the catalog cost because it's not associated with a catalog item. Okay, so Amanda, let's click back to the estimate real quick. I just want to orient everyone to the group and service area. So if you back out of here, that group header is the blank space that we see here now. Okay, and then let's go ahead and do the import, and we'll come back here. That was probably silly on my part since this is a blank estimate. So let's go ahead and do that import. If we select the files, it's going to ask you to choose the files on your computer. You're going to select that file that you have prepared, in this case, the corner market import, and open that up. It's going to tell you it's in use, and we're going to close it and then do that again. All right, so the file is there. We've got 2 options. We can clear this out and say, let's start over, do something different, or we can click on the upload button and upload the, or import the estimate details. So we're going to do that. If there are any errors that would pop up, they'd be highlighted here in red and tell us that something has gone wrong. In this case, the text is in green. That means it's good. And it tells us what has happened. So Aspire, during this import, has created 1 service group. It's created 3 services, and it has added 12 service items. Okay, so that is all good, all green. We're happy with the import. We're going to hit back. And when we go back to the estimate screen, you're going to see those items, services, and groups have been created. Okay, so if you recall from the spreadsheet, the landscape renovation was in column A. That's our group header. And then we had 3 services: demolition, landscape installation, and irrigation installation. And then we have the items that are associated with each one of those. Okay, so a simple import process, if you do have this information, the import tool can save you some time as you are adding that information into Aspire. If you're estimating directly in Aspire, maybe this isn't super helpful because you would probably spend more time getting it in the right format on the Excel sheet. But if you are pulling that information out of a takeoff system or measuring system outside of Aspire, you can use that to import those items. Now, I want to focus our attention on the very last item. Notice on the spreadsheet we had a new one-time item, an example of that, and it does import that item. So we get the item in, but I do want to point out that it doesn't bring in any cost and therefore doesn't bring in any price. So once we add our new one-time item, we do need to click into that item, add our unit cost and unit price that we want to price for that. So if you want to put $100 in there and then up in the unit, actually just save this. We're back out of here since there's no save button, and then change the unit price to whatever sales price that we want to sell that item at. Right, so we can put $150 for our sale price. Okay, so you can add items that are not in your catalog. If you do add items that are not in your catalog, you need to make sure to update the cost and sales price on the estimate in Aspire. Of course, you could change the name to something that's much less software system training than the one-time item, but just wanted to make sure we didn't skip over that in this webinar. Okay, so that's an example of the import going well. They don't always go well. As I mentioned, it's really important that the keystroke and those item names are going to line up. It's also really important on the services. Okay, so you may get some error messages when you run this import. And we're going to show you that. Amanda, if you will, let's hit the red X on Landscape Renovation Group and just get rid of this whole thing and clean out this estimate. And we're going to import another file into this. And if you haven't closed it yet, we may need to close it in order to add it in here. Great, so let's do select files and then go find your import error. Excellent. And we're going to upload that. So this file, we don't get the nice green text. That's good. We get some red text, and that red text tells us that on line 4, 5, 6, and 7, I could not find the service installation. Okay, so Amanda, if you can, will you open up that file? We'll take a look at those 4, and I'm going to show you what that error is. And it's an error in the name of the service. Okay, so when we loaded this in, if you look at lines 4, 5, 6, and 7, in column B, the service name, the service on this sheet is installation, but the actual service in Aspire is landscape installation. Okay, so I didn't put landscape in there. If I would have just put landscape, it wouldn't have worked either. If I would have typoed installation, that wouldn't have worked either. It's got to be keystroke for keystroke, the same name as the service in Aspire in order for the upload to work. Okay, so if you are going to use this import tool, it may make sense to create a version of this that has the services you're going to be utilizing in a drop-down list that you're selecting, right? I'm sure all of you are savvy enough to create that in Excel, or someone at your organization is to help you out with that. Okay, so we could change those and update them, but just wanted to point out that you may get some errors, but pay close attention to what the error is telling you. It's generally trying to help you out and correct that error. And if you complete an upload and it goes haywire, it's not what you were expecting, you can just clear it out like we just did, remove the group, and start the process over as well.
Travis, we had a good question here from Charles. Can kits be uploaded through the estimate import tool?
It's a great question, and to my knowledge, we are talking about items only. I'm not 100% on that, so if somebody's got a better answer, or if I'm wrong, please correct me, or we'll let you know a little bit later if that's incorrect. But I believe that we are importing the items only. Any other questions?
Nope, we can move right along.
Excellent. So that is the import tool. Amanda, real quick, I'll touch on this. We're not going to go through this process just yet. There is a second import option. So if you open up the import option again, I'll just talk through this for a moment. We have the ability to import from OnCenter. OnCenter is another software estimating tool that you can import from. The export process from OnCenter is a little bit tricky. We're working on some documentation and that will assist with that, but it will work the same way, assuming that we get the format exactly right. So same way that the Aspire format template has to be exactly right, the OnCenter format template has to be exactly right, and there's a lot more lines of data associated with that. So some more information will be coming and posted to the knowledge base shortly about how to do that. But if you are utilizing OnCenter as an estimating tool, you can import directly from that. I shouldn't say directly. Export from OnCenter, import into Aspire in that format. Okay, so more information coming on that. Okay, topic number 2 today is to talk about general conditions. And as Amanda is heading to the admin area, I'll just talk a little bit about what general conditions are. General conditions are those things that are associated with large jobs that you may not include on any one service, or you may want to not affect one service. You want to spread it out over the entire job, and sometimes you got a lot of work tickets, and that can get a little bit tricky trying to do manually. Right? They're not necessarily costs that you want to spell out to your client on the proposal. You just want to make sure that they're included so that you're recovering those costs in the estimate. Okay, and that's what the general conditions are. In admin, there are a couple of things that you'll need to turn on in order to manage these effectively. In the admin group there, second from the bottom, manage general conditions templates. So we can create templates for general conditions. And in order to manage those, to get that icon in admin, you have to have that checkbox turned on. And then secondly, in the estimate section over on the left-hand side, there's the permission to adjust general conditions. And that's the checkbox that you have to have turned on to be able to go into an estimate and add or modify general conditions on that estimate. Okay, so we've got both of those turned on. If you want to use general conditions, you'll at least have to have adjust general conditions turned on to be able to do that on the estimate level, and you need the template turned on if you want to modify or create templates in admin. Okay, so we're going to jump out of here. We're going to go to opportunity 1816 in our system and take a look at an estimate with general conditions on it. So if you go ahead and click into the estimate, if you're familiar with our estimate screen, you'll notice pretty quickly there are a couple of extra columns here. Okay, so between unit price and total price, we have a GC cost and a GC price. Okay, that is the general conditions, and Aspire is spreading the cost and the price of the general conditions across all of the services. We'll talk a little bit more about how that's happening in just a minute. Amanda, if you scroll down towards the bottom, you'll notice that there is an extra line item at the bottom of this that is for general conditions. Okay. And it's stuck there under optional services on the work order. It's not an optional service, it's just at the footer of this estimate. And it gives us a summary of the general conditions that have already been applied. Okay, so this is an example of an estimate with the general conditions already created. We'll walk through how to actually create them and how to manage them in admin as well. But I just kind of want to give you a picture of what this looks like after they've been completed. We can modify the general conditions on this estimate. They're still in bidding status. So if you click on that link, it's going to open up a new window. And this is our general conditions screen that we have then applied to this job. Okay, so as you're looking at this, there's 4 items: dump fee, labor, portable toilet, and a mobile office that have been set up as part of the general condition cost this is being applied to this job. And this did come from a template. Again, we'll go look at how to create and manage a template, but if you see up at the top, there's a standard direct report template that's been set up. That's where these items came from. There's also another standard drive time, right? So if you're going to a job and not direct reporting, you can use that as a template, or you could just create these from scratch as well. You can add and modify these on the individual estimate. for that specific job if that is easier. Now, there's a lot going on this page. I'm going to take a few minutes and just walk through this so we get an idea of what's going on here. The first thing, we'll just look at dump fee first, right? So we have a dump fee, it's a material item, and we have an amount of 4. Okay, that is the quantity or the amount that you're going to use on this specific job. So when we pull a new template in here, those amounts are 0. You're inputting that quantity or that amount for this specific job. Okay, for this job, I decided we needed 4 dump fees associated with the work that we would be doing here. Maybe dump fees is a bad general conditions, but I stuck it on there. Maybe this is your dumpster that you've got just to handle day-to-day waste throughout the project, and you're planning on having it dumped 4 times. Okay. As you move across, you'll notice that the units is fixed amount. So this is 4 fixed amounts of $300 each. Right, so that makes the extended cost $1,200. Okay, not doing any additional calculations. It's just $300. I said I wanted it 4 times. I get $1,200 for that. Okay, now the others work a little bit differently because they are not fixed amount units. They are hours per day and quantity per day. So for labor construction, maybe I'm accounting for 15 minutes of daily cleanup, whether it's in the office or around the mobile office there on the site. I've got 15 minutes, and this is like 15 minutes of crew time, right? So I've got the 0.25 amount. The cost is $25. Again, I set that on my template. I could modify that, but it's calculating $168.75 for that. Okay? And the way that it's getting there is by looking at the total days from above. So in that gray box right above, it says total days of 27. That's the estimated number of working days it will take to complete this project. And Aspire is doing that calculation based off of all the fields to the left. So if we start at total estimated hours, we got 1,036. We can input the hours that we plan on working per day. I set this job up to work 10-hour days. The general conditions hours per day in the second column, that's coming from the amount of any labor items that are in general conditions. This would reduce our hours or working hours per day, right? So our remaining hours per day, what we're actually going to work towards those estimated hours is 9.75. And then you set the crew size, okay? So in this case, we've set it to 4. If we modified the 10 working hours per day or the crew size, it would modify the total number of days appropriately, and it would recalculate the extended cost for any of the per day units, either hours or quantity. Okay, a lot of math going on there, but pretty easy to get a feel for once you start playing around with those. The last 2, portable toilet and mobile office, they are set up as a quantity per day, so I just have a cost per day that I expect to cover all the costs related to my portable toilet or my mobile office that I'm going to have on site. And again, it's making that calculation based off of the 27 total days, right? For my mobile office, it cost me $100 per day, $2,700 I want to recover in cost for this particular project. Okay, that's a lot of talking about general conditions, but I think it gives you a pretty good idea of how those can be added. Of course, you could remove these by clicking a red X on any one item. You could add additional items by selecting a catalog item below the list there. It does have to be a catalog item. We don't allow one-time items in this screen, but if you want to use an item, you certainly can add it from here. Okay, let's back out and take a closer look. Was there a question before I move on?
Yeah. Go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, I was just going to say, I was able to test if kits can be pulled in, and they can be pulled in on the import tool. And it pulls in all the associated items inside the kit without a problem. And then there was another question, can you use the import on change orders? Tested that, and yes, you can.
Excellent. Kevin, thank you very much. So 2 great answers there on the import tool. Corey?
Yeah, we have a couple of sort of general condition questions. Nicole wanted to know, is there a crew size that you set on here? What if there's multiple crews or multiple sizes? How does that affect general conditions?
So you can adjust that on the screen there, the crew size. If there's multiple crews going to be working on it, then this is just me thinking about the total number of people, right? So if you have multiple crews, you got a 3-person and a 5-person, I would make that 8. That's how many people are going to be working on that job. And that's really what that crew size. So maybe job size is a better way to think about it.
Okay. And is there a specific process? Well, we'll answer that. We can move on.
Okay, very good. Amanda, if you want to back out, we'll take a look at this on the estimate screen, and then we'll go into admin and take a look at general conditions templates. So you'll notice that down at the bottom, like we said, we've got the cost. We also have a price there, okay? So the general conditions screen that we were just on, we were only worried about cost. But once we save that, Aspire takes that cost, puts it onto the estimate, and marks it up. So it generates a price based off of our standard markups for our item types, okay? And it applies it to the services, okay? So if you scroll up, you'll notice that that $4,700 of cost has been spread out across the other services that already existed on my estimate, okay? Aspire spreads these based off of the labor hours associated with each service, okay? So it's not just on the value, the price for each service, it is based off of the labor hours for that service. If you had a subbed service, no general conditions would be applied to that, okay, because it has to have labor hours to be applied, for the general conditions to be applied there. But it does spread those across proportionally based on the number of hours, and then it marks it up to get to that general conditions price. Okay? And that price is just worked into that service level price for each of the services. Okay, so utilizing general conditions in this way allows you to add these costs in without itemizing them specifically on each service, right? If we didn't have this general conditions tool, we'd have to add each of those items to each of the services and then put a portion of each of them into the service manually to spread those out. Okay, so that's the idea with general conditions. We started kind of at the end working backwards. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. And typically, if you're going to do this, you would have a couple of templates created to more easily manage the general conditions and adding those on. So Amanda, if you want to go back to the admin area, we'll take a look at general conditions templates there. Okay, so right in the estimating section, all the way over to the right, there is the icon with the clipboard, and that is the manage general conditions templates. Okay, so it's not in the estimate templates, but it is a separate area. And there you can see those two templates that we saw in the estimate, our two options, our standard direct report and our standard drive time. If you click into one of these, you'll see that the screen looks very similar to what we had just looked at. The only difference is the amount, right? The amount column isn't in here. We're just setting up the factor and the unit cost, okay? And the factor almost always is 1, right? That's just saying what piece of these typically is used in this job, right? So the factor is typically 1. Anything that would be a different factor, I think you're going to change that in the amounts column and see best results there. Okay, you can change, you'll set the units here, either fixed amount, hours per day, or quantity per day, just like we talked about on the estimate, and of course set the cost. All of these items are fields are also editable on the individual estimates. You can make adjustments as you need to. Okay, and you can add catalog items here as well. Okay, I think that's a pretty good overview of general conditions. We could probably spend some more time answering some questions if there are any, but we can circle back to those later if there are none now.
Quick one at the top. What was the software that we integrate with for import tools? The OnCenter?
OnCenter, that's correct.
Okay. Let's see, other questions. How do we allocate EMOS costs to general conditions that are spread across multiple services?
Okay, you said EMOS costs, is that what I heard?
Yep.
So I think you could add those as an item. I don't know exactly what EMOS costs are, so, but you could add an item for that, put it into your general conditions, add the cost in, to your general conditions setup, and it would spread it across the services.
Okay, Josh, if you want to elaborate, we'll try and answer that one either at the end or offline.
Very good. All right. If there are more questions on general conditions, we've got time at the end. We can spend some time answering those again. But now, Amanda, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we can take a look at T&M per service.
All right, so we are going to walk through an example today where we're doing some time and material work in combination with our open billing work. So I've set up a work order with my invoice type as fixed price open billing. That would be the majority of my job. If I drill into my estimate, we can see my arena installation is fixed price open billing. But I'm selling my site prep as time and material per service. So this is an option that's available within your fixed price open billing estimates. So for this example, we would set up our time and material just like we normally would. So I have my pricing table where I can set my markups by item type, and I'm able to set my hourly rate. And in this example, I went ahead and set up a crew leader rate and a crew member rate. I also have the ability to set a markup by category. I have not done that here, but that's an option. And let's go back and take a look at my estimate. So with my time and material estimating, I do have the ability to estimate my quantities here. You can see my $75 per hour. This is my default hourly rate. And then this is my price according to my pricing table markups. And then for my loader, I actually did an override on this screen. So just a reminder, with time and material estimating, Aspire will first look for any overrides on items here. And then from there, Aspire will look for category markups. And then from there, we'll look at our pricing table as our base. So let's go ahead and take a look at the production side of this example. I've scheduled this work. And if we look at our time entry screen, we'll see that I had 2 people working here. Okay, and this is where you'll select the labor rate. So if you set up multiple labor rates, your crew will not make this choice on Crew Mobile. The choice comes here when doing the time entry approval. So I have 1 person set at my crew member rate and 1 at my crew leader rate. We can look at our work ticket to see our T&M calc. So here's my T&M calc, and we can see how Aspire has calculated this labor. I did not have any materials factored in yet. If I go ahead and I complete my ticket, which is already done, we can go back to invoicing and look at the way that invoicing time and material occurs within that open billing situation. So I'm going to go back to my invoicing assistant. I'm going to search for my fixed price open billing and my T&M per service and identify my horse hay specialist. Here's my number 1849, riding arena installation. Okay, and now we can see in fixed price open billing, this was my total amount estimated on the fixed price open billing services. If I had any changes, change orders would be shown here. And here I can see what is ready to be invoiced on my time and material service. And so I'll come over here in my amount to invoice, hit the green plus, and your normal regular schedule of values for open billing is up here, and now you'll see this time and material section appears down here. So I'll check that I'm ready to invoice this particular portion of my work. I need to add a group name. This is the amount that Aspire has calculated, and I'm happy with that amount. I'm not going to make any changes. And I'll go ahead and generate my invoice. So here I'm in my batch status. I can open that up if I'd like to review what I'm invoicing, my labor, my different rates, etc. And when I'm ready, I'll complete my batch and send off my invoice. Any questions or anything that we can clarify on this topic? Partners, I am not reading the questions right now, so I'll just depend on you to read those for me.
Nothing specific to your topic, so you can press forward.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah,
All right.
That real quick,
Sure.
we are going to be on the invoicing webinar, the 5th one in this series. We're going to talk about T&M per service in detail with how it interacts with the schedule of values and invoicing there. So if you have invoicing related questions, hold on to those and join us. I think that's on November 10th in a couple weeks. And we will take a look at them.
If you're looking for something specific, the training videos, we didn't necessarily hit that again at the top of the webinar, but we do have training and videos on these specific topics, which take you from start to finish, permissions through invoicing. So you can get some specific examples, and then we'll also talk about that a little further on invoicing on November 10th.
So since we're on the topic, let's just take a look in AspireCare in the knowledge base. We do have some construction recorded webinars that you can take a look at here. And so like there is a T&M per service that you can reference, for example. Okay, so next topic.
Yeah, I'm sorry. In that same location, these webinars that we're on right now are going to be posted as well. So if you want to review this information, you can.
Are you good now, Travis? Can I go ahead? All right, so we're going to talk about prevailing wages. So this is another topic. We do have a recorded video, a little mini video that's available on that list, but we'll walk through one example here and see if there's any questions. So I am going to hop into a different opportunity. We're going to work at the Dodge County Jail. So prevailing wages typically come into play when you're doing municipal work. You may be working for city, county, state, where the wages that you pay your people are set. So in this example, we are planting some trees. Let's drill into my estimate. And within my service, I am able to identify the prevailing wages that are going to be paid for this work. Okay, and so I will show you back in admin in a moment. We'll show you where you can set these up, but we'll begin here. So on this particular service, planting my trees, and I'm working for the Dodge County municipality, they've identified these are the rates, the minimum rates that I need to pay my operators and my laborers. So at the service level, you are able to add those pay codes, okay? And those are coming from admin. We'll take a look there. You do have the ability to set a default pay code. So if you perhaps only had one operator rate, you could go ahead and set the default. In my situation, because I have different pay codes available, I'm not setting a default. I'm going to go back to my estimate now. The other thing I want to point out is that those rates are higher than my typical rates, okay? So when I built my estimate and I pulled in my labor for construction, my cost was not $50 for my operator, okay? It was set at my standard cost. So I manually pulled in a labor item for my operator and I adjusted my cost to the $50. And then same thing for my labor. I added a labor construction item. I renamed it to my construction prevailing wage laborer, and I adjusted my cost to $38. And that in turn, with my markups that are associated with this service or division, got me to my estimated selling price. All right. The final piece that I want to mention on this topic. So if you recall, we were talking about time and material. You would be selecting those overrides at the time entry screen. The prevailing wage or with the pay code overrides, these can be selected on Crew Mobile. So I'm not going to be able to show you that at the moment, but when your crews are starting time for each person, they will be selecting if they are an operator or if they are a laborer for the day. Any questions or any other clarifications, team?
Nope, we're good to go.
Okay. So Travis, you want to finish up?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to add about the pay code override, that adding it to the service here, I think gives you a lot of flexibility. You can have fewer pay codes in your admin area and set the specific rate for prevailing wage for that specific job on the services. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility. I know some of you have said maybe that doesn't provide you the reporting that you need, so that's not useful in some scenarios. I know there's lots of scenarios out there, but I think it should add some simplification of overall pay codes. Instead of having so many different prevailing wage pay codes by job here in your admin list, you can have fewer, right? Your standard prevailing wage, different types of prevailing wages, and assign those specific rates on those services in each specific estimate. So anyway, great job, Amanda. Thank you for that. We are going to transition now into some Q&A and talk with some of our Aspire clients who are utilizing some of these tools. Dustin, Ryan, and Travis have joined us. One request we got after the last time was for you guys to turn your cameras on. So if you happen to have the ability to turn your cameras on and join us on the screen, that's great. If not, that's okay too. We'll let you slide. But I am going to let you guys introduce yourselves to the audience, and then we will handle some questions. Travis, since you've got the best name on the panel today, why don't we start with you? If you want to unmute, turn your camera on if you'd like, and introduce yourself. Tell us what you do, what company you're at, where you're at in the country, and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hey, I tried to, is that working? Can you hear me? Maybe. Hang on.
So we can barely hear you
Is that
for
better?
a second, Travis.
Let me do this. This might work better.
Maybe not. All right, Travis, we're going to give you 1 minute, see if you can get that fixed, and we'll let Dustin kick things off, and then we'll come back to you. Dustin, you want to give everybody a quick intro? I know you were on Tuesday and did a great job, but go ahead and introduce yourself one more time.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. My name is Dustin Stefanik. I work for Gachina Landscape Management out of the California Bay Area. I primarily do project management and estimating and help and assist with running the installation crews.
Awesome. Thanks, Dustin, and thanks for jumping back on to talk a little bit more about estimating with us today. Travis, have you made any progress on your microphone situation?
Hey, how's that? Is that working better?
It's better, but not very good.
Let me see if I can turn this up real quick. I tried. Can you hear me at all, Travis? There,
We can just barely. It's starting to get a little bit better.
All right. Well, I'll just try and.
Oh, there you go.
Better. How's that?
Perfect.
That is great. There we go.
My name's Travis McLean. I'm with Dennis 7Ds up in the Pacific Northwest, Portland, Oregon. I am our commercial construction manager. I oversee estimating and sales and installation and all kinds of different shenanigans up here. Just about everything Aspire related at this point. I'm also responsible for billing in my division. So I'm kind of across the board our Aspire guy in my division outside of John, our IT guy.
Awesome. Thank you, Travis. And Travis is going to be back to talk with us on the invoicing webinar as well. So that'll be exciting. Last but not least, Ryan Harvey, you got your microphone worked out for us. Want to introduce yourself? Looks like you're still on mute. If you're dialed in, *6 might be the key if you're on your phone. And maybe we'll have to circle back to Ryan in a minute. All right, well, to get things started, Ryan, we'll circle back. If you get your microphone worked out, just jump in. We'll let you introduce yourself then. Dustin and Travis, again, thank you guys for being with us. Why don't you spend just a minute or two, talk about how you guys are currently estimating for your construction projects and how Aspire is working in that process with you. I'm going to pause just for a second. Looks like Ryan might be with us now. Ryan, your phone working? And all right. So Travis, I'll ask you first if you want to just give us a quick overview how you guys currently go about your estimating process and how Aspire fits into that, and then we'll get to some different questions.
Yeah. So for my basic use of it, we're currently doing a majority of our large construction estimating outside of Aspire and working through a manual import. Our maintenance and residential divisions are estimating completely in Aspire. They use a lot of kit systems, services. Commercially, I've just not worked it all out, and I've continued to use our old system. And we continue to try and kind of sharpen the pencil to figure out how to make it work. And one of the things we have talked a little bit about is the new import. We just haven't really fooled around enough with it. Part of that is that we have an ungodly amount of items in our items list, and getting the names of those right is a task, is what I will say. So something we haven't fooled around with a lot, but something that long term we probably will lean towards. We also use on-screen for takeoff, so maybe an option eventually as we continue to look down the road.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Travis. We'll probably circle back and talk a little bit more about importing and estimating. I think it's pretty common, if I can just be frank with everyone, I think it's pretty common for our clients that are doing construction to have ways of estimating outside of Aspire. It's one of the reasons that we added the import tool, because there are different reasons and different softwares that are doing measurements and things that Aspire doesn't do, and adding that import tool has hopefully added some flexibility to ease getting that information into the system. Dustin, why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about what you guys are doing on the estimating side and how Aspire fits in that role for you.
Great. Yeah, Aspire we use primarily for all of our estimating. We don't try to transfer anything from Excel or any other applications. So we're basically inputting all of our takeoffs into the Aspire system. We do have pre-populated kits and templates that we like to use, as well as copying and using old proposals over. I do like this new import feature. I think that's going to really help our timeliness of getting proposals out the door, because we tend to modify our kits from time to time based on the site, and I think by knowing those imports will definitely help. But everything we do out of Aspire, and it's been working great so far. We do like to categorize our services like irrigation we like to separate, our installation we like to separate, plant healthcare and items like that. We like to group those into different manageable groups so that we can research that later for our P&L.
Excellent. Thank you, Dustin. All right, I want to give you one more option. See if you want to on your side. It's okay if you can't, but if you want to unmute and see if you can say hello, we'll give you a chance here. And it looks like maybe not. Okay. Kevin, Corey, I know that there have been lots of questions that are coming in. I'm going to ask Wendy to kick off the circuit going forward. As we were thinking about people, people talk about it already. Let's talk a little bit about what you're doing outside of Aspire as far as estimating, and how you think, if you are, and how you think that import tool is going to make a difference in what you're currently doing. So, Travis, why don't you kick that one off?
You were a little broken up. Can you repeat that? You want to talk about what we're doing outside and why?
Yeah, and how you're sort of planning to utilize that estimate import tool. I know you talked a little about that maybe in your future. Have you guys talked about just sort of the processes or how you're going to utilize that to try and smooth out that process from getting the information outside to inside Aspire?
Yeah, I think our number one struggle, right, time consumer, whatever you want to call it, is the items themselves and getting them into Aspire. But we can have, on any given project, we can have 200 different kinds of plants, and getting all those in. We originally had them built in kits, and we've backed down from that because we change our production pretty frequently on the style of the job. And so I think one of the things that we would look at long term is that option to be able to take our current template. We currently have all of our submittal sheets that put plant lists, irrigation materials, and everything onto an Excel list already. So I think long term, if there is an easy route to get those onto a list that I can hit import on, and I don't have to have someone sit and add those individually, that's a huge option, right? Long term, that would be the goal. I think working through that with my team to get it set up, but also having it so that this is a lot of this may be an internal problem here where we have created too many items. And so I'm a one-time item guy. If I can one-time item it, it's happening. I like to one-time item. It's just kind of how I operate because we see a lot of different stuff pretty frequently. So I think that's a big part of it is getting a system set up that would work. And I think that huge part of efficiency that we could gain would be being able to import all of that stuff pretty rapidly, so that we don't have to do any manual entry into Aspire, because that's essentially, I have this little brain of an estimating template that I trust, and the mechanical mathematical part of what my template does is hard to recreate in Aspire currently. But the backside of operations happens in Aspire, and I need that to be my backbone, really. And so finding a way to get the information in is key, right? So I think that's part of what John and I have to start looking at, is what our import looks like. Fool around with it, import a couple of jobs, see how much it is our procurement department, because that's one of my favorite parts of all of this, is if I can stir some stuff up in other parts of the building, we're doing something right. So I think that's a big part of it, is just learning how it will work for us and what our next steps will be. And I don't think it's a huge jump at this point to try and make an attempt.
Very cool. Thank you. Travis is having a little bit of an issue with audio, so I'm going to jump in here. Ryan, I'm not sure if we ever did get you on. So I can kind of leave this open for either Travis or Dustin, or maybe even I could answer if you guys don't want to. What are some of the advantages to using fixed price open billing over fixed price on a payment schedule? So Dustin, do you want to take a stab at that?
Sure. I mean, we typically will use the fixed price open billing when the job is going to go through into the next month. and when we want to do a percentage of progress bill or a quantity of progress bill. That's typically when we want to use that. On other times, what we have been doing is doing a deposit up front. And in order to capture that and create an invoice, we need to have that in open price billing. And then we can capture that deposit money, and then the job can roll out from there. For the majority of the smaller jobs, we stick with just the fixed price at the end. I guess that would wrap it up.
Okay, thanks, Dustin. Yeah, so I think one of the really powerful things about fixed price open billing is that you're not restricted at all to when you want to invoice these. So if you had to do a deposit, you certainly could. When you are doing the fixed price on a payment schedule, you would set that deposit amount, and the percent complete would be 0, and that would run through into Invoicing Assistant immediately. Fixed price open billing, you could essentially accomplish the same thing. You could create a schedule value for a deposit, and you could invoice that right away as well. So I think what's nice about fixed price on a payment schedule is those are getting triggered. So each time I hit one of those percent completion milestones, it creates a line in Invoicing Assistant, opposed to me having to drill in to fixed price open billing and determine what I want to invoice. Does that make sense? I hope. Let's see what other questions we have.
I have one floating around here from before. A couple of people asked, both Bert and Jason, maybe wanted to get a little more into general conditions. Can you guys talk about maybe the best, sort of your best practices around general conditions? You know, what are you including in them? How are you finding like the success utilizing GC?
Yeah, I'll start, but we don't really have too much practice on that general conditions tab. What we've done in the past is created like a group item or group services for mobilization, and all that is lumped up into one unit price. It's not separated throughout each group of items. So I like this tab because it'll definitely breaks up the price throughout the whole proposal. And if a project is going to run for a duration of time, that helps with the equating the cost a lot easier for the client.
And Travis, do you have any, you guys utilizing general conditions or have any good best practices?
We did, one of the things that I have looked at with general conditions and not personally been able to figure out, we do a lot of prevailing wage work. And so general conditions for us has a tendency to be stuff that we don't have to pay prevailing wage on, right? Shop time, build time, whatever we're doing that's not on site. And so for us, the dollars that track into general conditions and not the hours that track into general conditions has been a little bit of a conflict, and something I've played around a little bit with. But we've essentially started to try and come up with a way to build our front side and our back side essentially of shop, build out, meetings, and closeouts and walkthroughs and some stuff into a general conditions template, so that we essentially have an amount or items or whatever it is that are inaccessible to our crew, with it still being on the job. Because what we found is you build all of your general conditions into your estimate, your guys use 1,000 of 1,000 hours, and you go to do your final walk and you need 24 hours to do it, and you're all out of hours, right? And so that's something we've played around with a little bit upstairs. We haven't really dialed it in, but we've looked at the option of kind of making some things a general condition that we can leave as a separate that we can kind of keep for specific things that we want to use them as managers versus field guys.
Thanks, Travis. Yeah, I think so the old way, before we had general conditions built in how it is now, you would put a service on your estimate that was general conditions, and you would list out, you know, your porta potty, dumpster, extra hours, whatever. I think it kind of got some people either A, were forgetting the service, B, maybe they didn't want that to show up on a proposal that, you know, part of that price was for, you know, those type items. So this was kind of that way to, I don't know if I want to say bury it into the price of the job, but I feel like essentially that's kind of what's happening, right?
Yeah, that's a good way of doing it.
Okay, I did see another question. So what's the best way to handle quantity-based progress billing? So I don't know if we want to show you how to do this actually in Aspire, or I can just kind of walk through it. Why don't I talk about it, and then we can decide. So if you were on the call on Tuesday where we did the original or the initial fixed price open billing setup, and we put in a quantity of units that represented the amount of dollars to invoice at a unit price of $1. So in that case, our units were dollars that we were invoicing. Now, I could have, instead, I was working on an example of maple trees, and I think I added 3 maple trees or something. Let's say that price was, we'll just call it $2,100 for my 3 maple trees. I could have put in that I have 3 maple trees installed at $700 a piece. And when it comes time to actually invoice that, the quantity that I'm putting on the invoice and invoicing assistant is that I installed 3 of those, or if I only got around to installing 2 of those, it would have looked back at that schedule of values and saw that those were at $700 a piece. And if I put 2 in the amount for this invoice, it would have invoiced out $1,400. Does that make sense, or do you guys want to see it? We'll just move on to the next. Let's see. There was a question. So the most common general condition items. I'm having trouble finding that question again, but whoever typed out the most common items, you know. So I think the porta potties, the dumpsters, some of the labor for both getting to the job, setting up the site, putting up your construction fencing, moving the equipment to and from, those are the items that are most commonly used.
I have a quick question about the general conditions, and when we're printing out the proposal and unit pricing, how does that display to the client, and how can we explain those general conditions when they ask about, you know, what's the price for a 1-gallon plant and why is it different from last year's proposal for a 1-gallon plant? And does it show the general conditions within the proposal, or is that just a cost that we need to explain to the client?
Well, they're not going to see those items estimated. So I think, so what you're saying is that you're showing extended cost on an item. But since the general conditions has inflated the service price, those no longer add up to the extended price of the items.
Correct. Yeah.
So I would honestly, I would do one or the other. I would either show my service pricing and not my individual item pricing. I think it's completely fair to list out every single item that you're using, the quantity, the unit of measure, but I would stop there. I wouldn't add the extended price on the item level.
Got it.
Or, and yeah, I mean, you couldn't even really do vice versa of that. You couldn't display your items and the extended price of those items. Because if they were to add them up with the calculator, I think at some point they would see that they don't all add up. So my recommendation would be to remove the extended item pricing.
Okay.
We got a good one here from Jessica, Kevin. How do you handle the porta potty purchase receipts when it's a general condition? Which ticket service would the receipt be allocated against?
Yeah, so yes, when you use the general condition, these items don't go into purchasing assistant. So the best practice and the easiest thing to do is create a purchase receipt, add your item, your purchase or your porta potty item. And then once you do that, instead of picking the single ticket on the magnifying glass, if you drill in to the quantity icon next to the quantity of that item, you can actually pick multiple tickets to apply that to. So if your porta potty was going to run you $500 for the month or whatever it might be, I could pull in 6 or 7 of those tickets that's being used for and spread that out across those tickets on the purchase receipt. What else do we got out there, Corey? Anything?
Yeah, I'm looking here. Let's see. Not sure if I have any more specific questions here, which we want to try and address.
Sounds like there's still a little bit of questioning on when open billing is the advantage over fixed price on payment schedule. Just in a nutshell, the flexibility of open billing, and another huge one is if the customer is requiring retainage. That's the only invoice. So fixed price open billing is the only invoice type that accepts retainage and holds money back. So I would make those the two strongest cases for fixed price open billing. And I think that's about all. Corey, if you're not seeing anything else, then let's see what we got here. I'm getting some messages coming through now. Somebody asked, how can I see the entire items list in Aspire or print it out? You could certainly go back to the items catalog back in administration, and you could build your list and items to show your active items, grouped by item type, whatever, and export that list from there. Okay. Well, with that said, we will go ahead and wrap things up today. Just a reminder of our next webinars, which are next week on Tuesday and Thursday. Don't forget that on the knowledge base, we're going to be posting probably some more detailed explanations of general conditions and how to build them and how to use them a little bit slower. And we're not going to be looking at all this other stuff, so you can really focus in on those Same with TNN per service and some of these other features. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Amanda, thanks so much. Great job. Ryan, Dustin, we appreciate you guys. So have a good day.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.